Okay, doctor, you can start now.
Okay. Greetings, everybody. So it's a pleasure and indeed a privilege to have this discussion. Today we have Dr. Manoj Jinadasa and Dr. Wijeyamohan, and we're going to talk about the psychosocial impact of university ragging. And I tried to sort of highlight the psychological components associated with the ragging behaviors. So, ragging is an initiation ritual practiced in Sri Lankan universities. Not only in Sri Lankan universities, sometimes Indian universities also have this sort of behavior. And even in the Western countries, sometimes you have ragging type of behavior, but it's not in a you cannot put it to a group dynamics. It's mostly like isolated individual incidences. It could be it's mostly called hazing, but it's not systematic or abundance in these countries because I had the opportunity of studying at York University in Canada and Washburn University in the US, and they are very rarely I noticed this sort of behavior, and I would say it was zero. And also, the authorities are very mindful about such behaviors, and they would take action immediately. And there's zero tolerance for violence. So, why the Sri Lankan universities? Why we have this ragging issue? Every year, we hear a lot of sad stories. Sometimes students they commit suicide, and every time it becomes a sort of a social malady, and after a few months people forget about that and they go into their comfort zone. I think we should, as a society, as intellectuals, we have to address this issue because it's wrecking the education system, it's wrecking the moral values in our society. Anyhow, we cannot blame the university students alone because we are not living in a bubble. We live in a large society. And if you take the entire society, you see a lot of widespread violence in our society. It begins at school. Even the teachers, they are using corporal punishment, sometimes shaming and humiliating the students. So it provides a negative atmosphere. It provides a breeding ground for the university students. When they enter the university, they try to practice this sort of ritualistic behavior. Being said that, I have spoken to some of the university students in Sri Lanka, those who completed their degrees in 1960s, and they told that this practice was there even in the early 60s, but later on it became more inhuman, it became more we can see huge brutalization is associated with ragging procedure. So there is a definition given by the University Grants Commission. So it defines ragging as any deliberate act an individual student or group of students that causes physical or psychological stress or trauma and results in humiliating, harassing, and intimidating the other person. So a group of people, they try to pronounce their dominance, they try to overcome uh, freshers, and it has a lot of group dynamics. It has a lot of there's a lot of psychology is involved that. But end of the day, the ragging, it creates a violent and toxic learning environment at the universities, and it's not a healthy behavior. Here, the UNICEF-based study that indicates 51% of the students they were subjected to verbal harassment at universities. 34.3 were subjected to psychological violence. 23.8% were subjected to physical abuse, and 16.6% endured sexual harassment as a result of ragging. So you can see the seriousness of this situation, because year by year it escalates. And even though there's a lot of talk, a lot of rules and regulations, and even though we say that there's a zero tolerance for ragging, it emerges every year. So we have to think about the root cause of ragging. And these are the ragging victims, starting from Rupa Ratnasili and Varaprakash, Ovitigalagi Samantha, and the recent tragic death of that university student at Sabaragamu University who committed suicide following ragging issues. So this is a huge social tragedy, and I think not only university authorities and the society as a whole, we have a responsibility to end this sort of social disorganization, this sort of malady, and this sort of distressing practices in our universities. So ragging is a well organized and well orchestrated vicious act of violence. It's not a spontaneous. It's if you really study the dynamics of university ragging, it's a very collaborative uh, work. It's the group of students, they gather, they talk about the tactics, they use fear tactics, intimidation, physical violence, psychological violence, sexual violence, and uh, it's it's being done in order to gain the submissiveness of uh, the new students. When you discuss about the psychological factors associated with ragging, you can there are evolutionary psychology, because we know that the human being, we have innate aggressiveness in our biological system, because we try to resolve things using violence. It's even though the human being has achieved a lot of success technologically, still we have that primitive mindset. We have aggression. That aggressive component is pronounced whenever the suitable breeding ground is there. And also, social psychologists, they highlight about social conformity theory when they talk about ragging type of behaviors and cognitive dissonance, and also group dynamics. We have to see why students, they engage in ragging. Just think for 1 minute. A very bright student who has done his advanced level, the bright student, and very studious, and when they go to a university, there's a certain transformation. There's a psychological transformation in that person. But in the meantime, there are certain insecurities affect the person, and he could feel powerless, and they have a desire to establish seniority and reinforce social hierarchies. Moreover, there are other factors like unresolved mental conflicts, free floating anger, frustration, also work with that. And these these are the push factors for ragging behaviors. On most occasions, it's to gain the self-esteem, because some students have negative self-image, so they have the desire to exercise power over others. And we mustn't forget that the group dynamics, the team building, team cohesion is closely associated with ragging behaviors, because a group of people decided to exercise power over others, and they decide to use violence. Invariably, there are other students who have certain neutral mindset. They also attract. They are being attracted to these groups. So those who oppose, they being ostracized. So here you see the power dynamics. There's us versus them. So those who do not engage in bragging behaviors as seniors, sometimes they are being threatened or they're being cornered. So sometimes they're being called various derogatory names. So we can see huge group dynamics are acting on that. And when the person is attracted to herd mentality, aka mob mentality, his individual sense dissolves and he adopts the group behaviors and he becomes a confederate to the masses. You can see it's not among the university students, even in our own society. If there's any mob manifestation, you can always see this herd mentality. So people, they gather in masses, and based on that, they 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 act on uh, violence things, like they can perpetrate violence. And most of the people, the leaders who are attracted to this ragging type of initiations, they have a sense of alienation and self-doubt, lack of self-confidence, and low self-worth. So it's a form of chronic depression is around them. So in order to gain the the the, the, the self-image and to overcome low self-worth, sometimes they engage in this sort of violent behaviors, hurting someone, either verbally or physically, and gain some form of satisfaction. And 95% of people who engage in ragging behaviors, they suffer from low self-esteem. Why is low self-esteem? It could be in a society like Sri Lanka. We know that the caste oppression is there, poverty, lack of social opportunities, and sometimes childhood trauma affect the person's personality, and in once he becomes an adult, still these demons are hounding him. So all these negative factors are in the back of his mind. So when he gets certain power, is when he finds a breeding ground, all these negative demons are getting activated. And also body dysmorphic conditions also provide some form of stimulation, because the other day I was listening to one lecture by Professor Patrick Ratnaik. He mentioned about one female student at Kelaniya campus who was brutally ragging the other students, and she had a limb deformity. So here we can see some form of body dysmorphic conditions also contribute to violent acts. And in Sri Lanka, we know that wealth inequality, and there's a huge issues. There's a difference between the rural schools and the urban schools. So when these students from these two groups, they come to the university, invariably there are clashes. So there are certain push factors to commit acts of bragging, because the underprivileged students, they have sort of chronic anger or maybe certain inferiority feelings, and they feel that there is some unreasonable things being occurred. So that's also gives the opportunity for some radical political groups to fulfill their political targets using these university students. And there's a connection between interpersonal violence and personality disorders. People with personality disorders, such as antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. When we say borderline, it's actually it's an old term. It's the people with they're in between the neurotic and psychotic in between. So these people have a lot of past trauma. They have chronic depression, they have a lot of mental health issues. So when these people are being exposed to such a turmoil ground, they can become perpetrators of violence, and they sometimes engage in direct or indirect forms of aggression towards others. As I mentioned, childhood trauma also play a role. We know that in Sri Lanka, a lot of children, they face various forms of childhood trauma, sometimes sexual abuse, physical abuse, maternal deprivation, paternal deprivation, and household issues, financial issues. There are social issues. So child abuse is very, very crucial factor in Sri Lanka. According to Professor Harendra De Silva, 15 to 20% of male population, male children, get abused annually, and also the 10% of female children also get abused. So you can see the huge percentage, and these children, once they become adults, these childhood traumas affect them. They are, affect their present adult behavior. So these are the triggering factors, and it's like a ticking time bomb. And whenever they see an opportunity, whenever they see they are to put their aggression, so they unleash all the demons. And some people have this self-loathing, extremism, polarized thinking. We call it black and white thinking, and sadistic instincts, like they get certain enjoyment hurting others. So sometimes these people can act like the leaders in these ragging initiations, and they are very creative. They use various forms of ragging. I mean, not only physical, psychological, sexual, and somehow they try to humiliate the victim, dehumanize the victim, because they want to satisfy their inferior. It's a form of satisfying the abuser's inferiority complex and to restore his shattered ego. So these people with their shattered ego, with the low self-esteem, by exercising certain power on a helpless individual, they derive satisfaction. It's a form of sadistic satisfaction, and whenever they find the opportunity, they unleash these aggression towards the others. Especially the when the victim is helpless, it becomes a sort of a catalyst for them. And before committing the act of violence, they try to dehumanize. They dehumanize the victim because it facilitates. Then it gives you the opportunity. It gives you sort of the the moral satisfaction to exercise the power on the victim, and the inculcate inhuman treatment for these people, and it justifies the ragging behaviors, and it helps to lower their compassion and empathy. So dehumanization is a very, very huge component in ragging behavior. So they can call a lot of negative names for the freshers, and while perpetrating this sort of violence, they can use a lot of derogatory names and hurting the victims, psychologically hurting the victim, and physically hurting the victim. And also testing the boundaries. Sometimes it could be fatal, like in instances like Varaprakash, he was beaten, then he was forced to perform vigorous exercises. So there was a breaking point, and eventually the student succumbed to this ragging initiation. And what happens to the victim? So, after enduring ragging, the victim may experience anger, frustration, confusion, fear, and a damaged sense of self esteem. And mainly, they have submissive mentality. So, with torture victims, this sort of thing is happening. So, in order to gain the submissiveness, this sort of violence is being orchestrated. And invariably they have resentment towards the abuser, anger, hidden anger. And even though they have this submissive action, and they obey the tormentor, but after a while there could be terror bonding. And we often hear that some of the former university students, they say that, oh, ragging is nothing, we really enjoyed that period. Yeah, it was sort of, it was a memorable time period for us. That because we call that phenomenon Stockholm syndrome. And you try to identify with your tormentor, and it's a form of hostage bonding, and you identify and sometimes sympathize with your oppressor. So Stockholm syndrome also provides a good breeding ground for ragging, and also is justifies ragging type of behavior. And we know that ragging is not a healthy behavior. It can cause physical and mental illnesses. And after enduring ragging type of violence, a lot of students, they experience violence, phobias, post-traumatic stress disorder, aka PTSD, and adjustment disorders. Sometimes there are late reactions, and I have observed this in some of the university students. They were subjected to ragging in the first year, but their depression manifested when they are in the second or third year. So either out of their depression, if they try to commit suicide, or if they take their own life, again the sometimes the university authorities, they justify, they say that no, it was not due to ragging because it occurred 2-3 years ago. Now this person this person was a third year student, and they try to forget about that link. But it's wrong, because sometimes once the trauma hits you, your psychological symptoms do not manifest then and there. Sometimes it could lead to a late reaction, and sometimes after certain life events, certain negative life events, it can trigger. But you cannot forget the initial trauma that you suffered when you were in the first year. And it could trigger, and sometimes out of depression, they can commit suicide. They can experience post-traumatic stress disorders, and a lot of stress-related behaviors that affect their academic career. It affect their academic life. And even after they become fully fledged adults, once even they become employed, these fears, these anxieties are affecting them. Sometimes there are vulnerable individuals. They are prone to psychotic conditions such as schizophrenia, acute transient psychotic disorders. I have spoken to a number of psychiatrists, and they say that they have treated the university students after enduring ragging. They suffered psychotic reactions. Some people started hearing voices, auditory hallucinations, and form of depersonalization, dissociative reactions. And some, after 2-3 years time, they suffer from full-blown symptoms of schizophrenia. So this is what happens to vulnerable individuals, because our psychological makeup is not similar. Our everybody's psychological makeup is different, because there is a tolerance level, threshold level. Some people cannot uh, tolerate severe stress, anxiety, or fear. When they are cornered, when they are being when an outsider is committing any violent acts on them, there's a fear and helplessness. With that, it creates a huge fear inside them, fear and anxiety. So these things could lead to certain psychotic reactions, sometimes acute transient psychotic reactions. And with that, there's a this change of brain chemicals. It could be disastrous. It could lead to various types of psychotic ailments. Even though ragging is a criminal offense, and the the perpetrators can get 10-year imprisonment, it's very difficult to put an end to ragging, because despite the law, still the students and student groups, they use this sort of tactics in the universities. So there should be an attitudinal change. It should be created among the students. I have spoken to several professors in various universities, and sometimes they are reluctant to address these issues. They say, what's the use of that? When a first year students come, we try to arrange some program, we do anti-ragging awareness. But with these students, they have such an enthusiasm, and they agree to they listen to us. But what happens in the second year, and all of a sudden these victims turn into perpetrators, and it's a pointless matter, because it becomes a vicious cycle. It becomes a never ending story. And one university professor told me that she's highly fed up with doing that. And according to her, it's an effortless thing to giving awareness and try to stop ragging. So there is certain validity in what she says, because I think we are not conveying the correct and effective message to the students. So the when I say an attitudinal change, not only for the freshers, it should be to the entire university, the university authorities, the senior students, the management staff, and eventually to the entire society at large. And as I mentioned, some consider university ragging to be orchestrated by ultra leftist political groups in order to gain their political targets. Sometimes they use students. Actually, there's a huge debate about that. And there are pros and cons. Some people argue for this factor. But yet, there are undeniable facts are being associated with this. And when any disaster happens, we see very often university authorities, they try to whitewash it. Even with Varaprakash incident, even with the the Peradini incident, the first female student who became a cripple and subsequently committed suicide. Even that incident, we saw some of the university authorities, they tried to whitewash, they tried to hide ragging incidents, because they think that it would bring some damage to the university identity. And because of the stigma factor, I think we have to change that attitude. because ragging is already damaging the universities, and we have to mitigate ragging incidents in universities. In order to hide or to whitewash, we have to expose the perpetrators. Uh, I think we have to talk about it very openly without hiding facts and figures. Because there's a potential harm associated with ragging behaviors, and it affects the health and safety of the victim, and it these the hazing events lead to injuries, and every year you see students either they get injured, they being admitted to hospitals, and also some people take their own lives. It's a very very tragic scenario. So we should understand is ragging behavior, it's a form of social manners, and it's a pathology, it's not a healthy behavior. And there's other reason, because some university authorities, they have the lack of moral courage to stand against ragging. So I inquired about this, and there is actually the real facts are very very damaging. Sometimes the truth hurts. The reason is because they themselves were perpetrators. They themselves were raggers one time. So once you become a university authority with your dark past, you don't have the moral courage to stand against ragging or to stop that. So what they do, they either hide away, or they try to sort of whitewash the incident or pretend that nothing has happened. So this is a very very damaging condition, and I think we should address these issues. Even though the person was a perpetrator and committed some ragging in the past, it's okay. You can say that yes, when I was a student, I did these sort of horrible things, but I'm sorry. Now I realized it was damaging to the other students. So I'm here. I'm ready. I'm being reformed. So I'm ready to stop this sort of mass violence. And the university authorities have a responsibility to create safe and respect learning environment for the students. In a Western country, this sort of thing happens, and the students or the parents, they could sue the university. They could sue the university authorities. But in Sri Lanka, still we don't have that sort of understanding, that sort of wider education. I think things are changing now. Things are changing. Even we see, even with the doctors, if there's medical malpractice, now the masses, the public, they stand against because they know about their rights. So years to come, I think within few years time, things would change, and even the students and the parents would come to some sort of consensus, and they would know their rights, and things gonna be changed. I hope for the best. So the final thing I would like to mention, because ragging stunts the intellectual, social, and emotional life. Once you are a university student, it's a very very nice experience. It's a lifetime experience. So you have to cherish that. Being a university student is the best years of your life. You are enjoying your youth, and you don't need to live in fear. You don't need to sort of hide your capabilities. You don't need to fear of violence. I think if there's violence is persisting, it damages not only the students, even the university and the society as a whole. So these are the things I would like to highlight. And for our next speaker is Dr. Manoj. So Dr. Manoj, we are ready to listen to you. I can stop sharing my presentation. Is that okay?
Thank you, doctor. Thank you very much. But I would rather prefer to listen the our next speaker, and after that I can do it.
Okay, sir. No worries. No worries. Yeah. So Dr. Wijeyamohan.
Yeah, I think I can. Yeah.
Dr. Wijeyamohan, please give a little brief introduction about you. Because actually, recently I read one of these articles, and actually I was amazed being a lecturer at the university, and there was a lot of truth and sincerity in this article. Because we live in a society where we try to hide the truth. If truth hurts, we try to deviate. We try to sort of put everything under. But here, it was a good revelation, and thank you very much, Dr. Wijeyamohan, for your effort. So please give a brief introduction about you, and then continue your presentation.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Ruwan, and thank you very much for that brief introduction about my article. And me as a biologist, I'm a zoologist, graduated from University of Peradeniya during the period of 91 to 94. And our batch was the first batch after the JVP struggle in 87. So we were out of the university for about 2 to 3 years, and we were the first batch to come and join the university in 1991. Yeah. So the ragging was one of the major issues at that time, and our vice chancellor was Professor Jayatunge, and he used to come with a walkie-talkie into the hostels to curb ragging, and he involved straight away into the curbing ragging. But still, the seniors would do it without getting caught to them. But anyway, we also underwent ragging. But as the doctor said initially, I couldn't consider that it was a very serious ragging. But anyway, there were parts of serious ragging also going on. But at the same time, we were prepared to come to the university knowing that ragging would happen and we have to face it. And a few of our, one or two at least, of our the batchmates was not in that condition to accept ragging, and some of the physical ragging that they gave, some of the students collapsed. So this is where actually it's opened my eyes also as a student in the first year. Why should they do it if somebody doesn't want to do it? But anyway, 4 years we were there, and in our second year, when we became the seniors, the first anti-ragging group started in University of Peradeniya, and then there were a lot of lecturers was working towards to curb ragging, and one of the prominent professor was Professor Wijeyamohan from chemistry department. So I really I could see the ragging is different from medical faculty to science and engineering. Different groups are having the severity of the ragging, and especially in engineering faculty with a lot of Tamil students there were a little bit more ragging for the Tamils. We heard about it. But at the science faculty, it was not that severe. But we were a group of Tamil students, but we mingled with everybody. All our Tamil students mingled with everybody, and we became very friendly. And one thing was that they gave us a welcome. And after the welcome, we were all like friends. We never called them Akka and Ayya or Jyeshta Uttamya anymore. We called them Machan. And they also, the seniors also insisted that we have to call them Machan, and there was no kind of oppression for us after the welcome is over. But when I joined the staff at the University of Vavuniya, and Vavuniya, we started at the Vavuniya campus of the University of Jaffna. It was a new institution. We started with, actually, in our batch, first batch was only about 20 odd students for the entire faculty of applied science. And then the first batch went without any problem, and third batch up to fourth batch, there was no problem. And the fifth, sixth batch started this ragging thing coming into the university, which was a surprise for us because we started as a new university. There were no seniors to rag in the first instance, but somehow it crept in, the ragging system crept in. And then I have to leave the university. Then I rejoined in 2017. When I came back, I found a very strange system among the students where the junior students has to call the seniors as Akka and Ayya. So the ragging was severe. All the boys has to, within 2 days, they have to shave their heads and have a clean shave. All the girls has to wear very normal, not fancy dresses and not fancy hairdress, or they cannot wear any fancy footwear and things like that. So this is totally, and they were like that until they come to the final year. So this was something that was totally changed in about 15 to 70, 20 years, the entire ragging system. And in other universities also, it seems to be the same. Like seniors has to be respected until they become the final year. So this is something wrong. And then I knew that this has gone into the wrong direction. And then there was a problem in curbing ragging in the University of Vavuniya also, because not enough support was given. And as Doctor mentioned, it is the juniors who wanted to be ragged like. They were supporting the seniors, and we gave all our effort to stop ragging, but at the same time, the juniors seems to be not supporting the lecturers. It looks like it is the juniors who accepted ragging, or they also needed this kind of thing, ragging happening in a university, so that it can continue. And the most of the students who supported has become severe raggers in the next year. So this was the situation in Vavuniya, and then the staff couldn't stop it completely, and then there was a little bit of a deviation between the ethnic groups also there, because the war was going on at that time when we were University of Vavuniya campus of the University of Jaffna until 2009, and then 2020 we became an individual independent university, University of Vavuniya. And then we were independent from University of Jaffna. So that gave a little bit of more control among ourselves, so that we had our own council, we had our own senate, so that the staff of University of Vavuniya had more kind of autonomy. So this was the situation. And then when I wanted to, when I was posted as a deputy proctor of the Faculty of Applied Science, I found that first year I found that it was very difficult to curb ragging, purely because of the non-supportiveness from the juniors. And then it was, as I wrote in the paper, then I started focusing on to the juniors, so that I identified people who actually in aligning with the seniors for the ragging, and making the junior batch to adhere to ragging and obey ragging. So I was able to pinpoint them, and I found them, and I started inquiring them, kind of punishing them, not getting into the class, and informing to the parents and things like that. So with that, it stopped. So although I didn't actually target the seniors, and when I did that, some of the juniors came forward to give messages or to give evidence of ragging. So that also helped me a lot, because then the juniors found that the staff members are serious about it, and they are definitely mean business, and they don't need to worry about the ragging or informing the staff members, so that they know that they have been safe, they will be safe. But still, many of them did not kind of gave their identity when they wanted to inform ragging, but later on they started giving it. And then that gave a little bit of a fear of the seniors that they should not involve in that will definitely happen. And today at the Faculty of Applied Science, we are kind of 100% free, and the freshers are there at the moment, 2 weeks older. They came 2 weeks before, and you can come and anybody can come and see our faculty. You will not identify the seniors and the juniors in their dress code. So it is the dress code that they break at the initial stage, but now, of course, it doesn't happen. So actually for us, the staff members, we know nothing is happening. and the juniors are very confident in their attire and the way they behave, so that anything, whatever happens, they are ready to inform the staff members or the authorities, so that nothing happens. So this is the situation where I found it as one kind of one way of stopping it, or the curbing ragging, so that all the other universities or the faculties also can follow it. So that's what I wrote this article, accepting the faults with us, and then how we can merge from a society that was sadism is one of the important thing, and then how we came up. In the meantime, I think I really wanted to mention Dr. Ruwan's presentation today. Would have been a very eye-opening presentation for the fresh batches, right? Juniors, what would happen if you involved in ragging, if you subjected to ragging, or if you support ragging, and if you do ragging. I think this medical the information would be extremely important, and that would definitely enlighten the freshers not to adhere to these ragging rules. So they will know that. I think I never came up of this kind of medically informed presentation of what will happen if you've been ragged. So I think that is a very good thing. But at the same time, I have a question to Dr. Ruwan. If you see the private universities, these mentalities are not there. It happens only at the state universities. So I really don't know, but as far as I know, whatever I gather information, or when I visit to some of the private institutes like National Institute of Information Technology or NASF or other private campuses, there are a lot of universities, private universities are coming up in Colombo and Kandy. There you cannot see this kind of ragging or harassing students when they come freshers. So from my experience as a student at University of Peradeniya, when this ragging was happening in our life, we were unable to, there were a group of people that they were kind of isolated for being a little bit a posh lifestyle. So they didn't like this. So these are the group that has become anti-raggers in the following years. So this may be the basic thing in why the Sri Lankan universities have ragging, is that equalizing the status of all the students. So they force people to not to wear fancy dresses, because they say that might affect the person who is not able to buy that particular dress code or the footwear or the hairdressing or whatever it is. So they will press the parents, so that we have to equalize our the status with the lowest level in the university. So this is one of the bases why they do it in the name of ragging. So this is not only their behavior, but also in their education also. So anybody who does well, that also being suppressed by these seniors in a way, so that everybody comes like an equal. So my feeling is that this may be because in private institutes, this doesn't happen. Only in the state institute, it happens. So my feeling is that this is one of the outcome of the free education that we have. Because when you come to free education, everybody wanted to be kind of, or the people who are unable to come up with their financial status, try to push others down. And in addition to this, there's very important, I have to mention here, during ragging period, it is prohibited to communicate in English. You shouldn't. The seniors will not allow you to communicate in English. It has to be either Tamil or signals. So this is another important thing, because they consider speaking English is a kind of a higher status, and it's a watch life of the behavior, so that you should not show that, because not all the people are able to communicate in English, so that you have to suppress English and communicate in language which everybody wants. So this is an important thing why our graduates lose the international exposure. And everybody suffers because of that. Those who have done English medium education in the schools, they come to the universities and they lose communicating in English, and they don't know how to write the answers in the exam. So I still consider that although we don't have any of the attire differences in the juniors and the seniors, and I suppose that the students are free to talk in whatever the language they wanted in our faculty, and then I could see the difference of the performance of the first years before this action and after this action. There's a significant difference between the first year's performance. Currently, they are very good at the moment, and they are doing very well at the moment. So these are the important things that I wanted to mention, and it is important for our university system to curb ragging. And I also listened to once the former Vice Chancellor of Ruwan University, who came to University of Vavuniya, and told how he curbed ragging in his university. And then that was also a good lesson for us at that time. Actually, he completely 100% stopped ragging at Ruwan University some time ago, and now he's not the Vice Chancellor anymore. But currently, we receive certain stories or information that the university ragging is improving in Ruwan also. So it is important that how much effort the staff put, and how much genuine effort that staff wanted to stop ragging. And if all the staff members get together, definitely this can be stopped. Few staff members still feel the students' behavior is going out of the way if the ragging is not there. And in our faculty also, sometime you could see when the students are free to talk and they are free to do whatever it is. And sometimes definitely I could see there are few students actually open up at the lecture halls and ask questions, which is a good thing. But some staff members feel that shouldn't be the way, because they lose that kind of the traditional way of listening to the teacher, and sometimes they are not happy to listen to the students or listen to the students asking questions. So I think this has to change. We have to have a transition. Definitely, we have to have a transition. But I don't understand, or I don't agree with there is the socialism or some parties may be involved in ragging, but at the same time, they might be using the opportunity that that is the university is under ragging, so that once they have a hold of the seniors, it can be easily they can gather the info, all the people in the university. But I don't agree with that they are working together. I mean, from the top level in a political party or whatever it is to induce this ragging. But my feeling is that they are making use of the situation, what is happening in the university. But what I wanted to convey here is that ragging can be stopped easily and quickly if all the staff members get together. And during the discussion, we can talk about more. And over to you, Dr. Ruwan.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wijeyamohan. That's very eye-opening facts that you highlighted. Yes, indeed, there are issues currently. There are a number of issues because it's within the administration, within the student unions, and also you mentioned the division between the private universities and the government universities. I think ragging can occur at any level, at any place, because if you read Professor Philip Zimbardo's research, it's not the bad apples that cause issues. It's the situation, it's the environment, because he did this Stanford prison experiment where he showed that people could change once you get certain authority. If you are given certain power to exercise over people, some people, they change, and that behavior has been observed. I can tell you some thought-provoking stories. During 1971, a group of Sinhala youth rebels, they went to Jaffna to attack the Jaffna police station. Then some of them were arrested, and the Sinhala police officers wanted to kill these young Sinhala rebels, and that was stopped by a Tamil police officer, very well respectable Tamil police officer, SSP Sundaralingam. So again, you see, sometimes people, they they do a lot of horrific things to their own people, like Pol Pot. Pol Pot murdered his own people. It's whereas the Nazis killed the Jewish individuals. So these dynamics change, and if there are given negative opportunities, and if there's no monitoring, no observation in the private universities, even the private universities would succumb to these circumstances. So I think it's a matter of time, but at the moment in the private universities, there's huge monitoring, and especially the parents are very influential. They spend millions of rupees for their children, and they wanted a quality education, and they need a safe ground. So that's why the university authorities, especially the private university authorities, they are very, very conscious, and they are very cautious about the safety of the students. Whereas the government universities, that sort of attitudinal change is not there. And these ritualistic practice was prevailing since 1960s. I think here we need an attitudinal change. So thank you once again for that eye opener, and the very powerful facts that you presented. So our next speaker is Dr. Manoj Jinadasa. Dr. Manoj, over to you, and please start your presentation with a brief introduction.
Wait a minute till I share my presentation, please.
Okay, okay.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Jayatunge, Ruwan Jayatunge, for ages, I mean, ages, not for couple of months, that he asks us to make a why don't we can make a collaborative Zoom lecture program like this. So thank you very much. So my presentation, my talk is based on how and why young men ragged by men everywhere. That is because I'm being trained in England about the critical masculinity, the manliness and the masculine uh, traits and behaviors are formed. In this regard, in this context, I was interested more in exploring why men are ragged by men. So in this, my presentations, I'm going to tell you in basic what is ragging. Is kind of a rite of passage dismissed even in the critical cultural studies, even though there are a number of studies in medicine or clinical psychology or counseling or some socio-cultural analysis. I'm being so interested in exploring why. Men are ragged by men. It's the case. Like I have some interesting ideas. It was insightful, the previous study by Wijeyamohan from the Vavuniya University, as well as Dr. Jayatunge. So the gendered sexualized practice rooted in hegemonic masculinity, symbolic violence, and institutional power. This is in nutshell what I'm going to tell you about how a kind of a ragging is formed when it comes to the Sri Lankan. I may introduce that bit post-colonial, culturally bit conservative, or we'll say not that much ripened as how and what we talk today in terms of the most fair or democratic or very citizen society and culture. So the male bodies are site of discipline, at the same time humiliation and repressed desire. It's very interesting that it is termed like a repressed desire. At the same time, from the childhood or maybe from the adolescent, from the family within the parents, until they are grown towards adults, where we met in the university as the young men or young people, they are asked to be more disciplined by their cultured society. So when it comes to the Sri Lankan context, what I am talking here, why ragging is so important in the critical masculinity, the men's are requested by their society to be so disciplined. In other words, men are to be a real man. Likewise, in single, I don't know Tamil. I like to praise it in Tamil as well. So that the same time, men's are requested to be so rigid or so what I called um, um, so formalized in the context of fear and shame. So, the famous anthropologist like Gananath Obesekara, he analyzed how our culture has been juxtaposed and intersectionally trajectories through the culture and fear. For an example, his analysis on the Patini cult or something. But in here, the humiliation, in addition to the discipline, is also another conundrum or a puzzle within the man. And therefore they are repressed some forms of desire. This, what I'm telling you, that this has been a context where why men are requested and required by their society to rag and to be ragged. So utilizes legal frameworks in this study, the presentations from Indian and Sri Lankan legal frameworks, and some of my ethnographic being qualitative, more immersed into the fact, ethnographic evidences, and some form of the latest French and German theoretical underpinning. So the keywords here: ragging, masculinity, hegemonic power, symbolic violence, male vulnerability, and the post-colonial theory, in which context I am taking onwards my presentation. So, the Indian University Grant Commissions in 1999 defined what is ragging. More or less global down south, global south, on the contrary to instead of global north. The ragging, when it comes to the Indian context, it's a psychological harm. When it comes to the Sri Lanka UGC Act, the Ragging Act, there is 1998, the physical and psychological injuries. In addition to psychology, Sri Lanka has taken another sections, psychological inquiry. And here, being a critical masculine perusal to the fact, I'm taking some an extra value here to the gendered or sexualized dimension that has been overlooked within the theme of ragging. It's a gendered. Sometimes women are ragged by women. or female students are ranked by female. In here, what I'm telling, why men are ranked by men. So the normalization in universities, there's another facet. The normalization in universities. For an example, when we ask young students or the senior students, undergraduates, why you are using this kind of things? Because in order to get the socialization, the normalizations, in order to adapt with this, what is called university, upasanskriti, subculture or something. Even nowadays, even in still I am in the Department of Mass Communication. Even 2 hours before, I met some student union students, undergraduates. They wanted to adapt with the Mahasisha Sangam student council. Even the department student councils would always try to adapt with the Mahasisha Sangam. So the normalization in the universities and police centers, technical colleges, in addition, where the Sri Lanka, it is not only the state universities, but also the police, army, private universities maybe, and the technological far from the, there are very good examples. I'm saying good mean in the research perspective, but it's not good at all. Where the Ampar Hardy Technical College or somewhere a couple of years ago, there are very unpleasant incidents. Even nowadays happening to some forms. It's not only the state universities, but also that the masculinite areas of power like military forces, police, technical college, universities, hostels, these things. So the masculine area is so happening, this ragging. So the functions, discipline, conformity, emotional endurance, silencing dissent are some of the reasons why. In order to discipline, in order to get that we are on the same boat. That's why they are being ranked by the senior people. That is called discipline. And conformity, in order to get their compromise and consent to what they have been doing for sometimes the student politics, that is more or less called Marxist or communist or whatsoever. And the emotional endurance, batch fitness, and silence in dissent. At the same time, behind the rank, there are some interesting things that in order to not to speak the other alternative, different ideas. So this reinforces hegemonic masculinity. In nutshell, the Rowan Cornell, the Australian cultural analyst, key theory I'm using here in order to understand why these things are happening within the men's premises, that it reinforces hegemonic masculinity. So in this, there's a nice intersection between power, masculinity, and sexualized ragging. So that where I was stuck, and I was interested to explore in this presentation. There's a power, and the cultural power, and body power, or the corporeality, and the masculinity, the man's, or in order to be a real man who is fit in terms of the heteronormative patriarchy also. And therefore, some forms of sexualized exercising in the brands of ragging are happening here. So therefore, theoretically, Bourdieu's symbolic violence is very interesting to understand why these things are happening. In addition to Rowell Cornell's hegemonic masculinity, the hegemony is Italian philosopher Antonio Gramsci, who defined that how hegemony has been prevailed through the society and culture in order to establish a political power and agency. It's not only the monopoly of the selected candidates from the political parties, but within the culture itself, how the religions, education, legality, health, medicine, all these facets of areas prevailing through hegemonic areas of these things. That is what Antonio Gramsci said. But when it comes to the hegemonic masculinity, it is telling that how this tells us that white men are so typical, stereotypic, or hegemonic, or in other words, they just want to, in order to adapt and compatible with what their society has been asked from them as men. So the institutional surveillance and body control, according to Michel Foucault, said that these are the institutional ways of surveillance. That people are to be congruent and compatible with these things. Institutional request. At the same time, body control. So the bodies should be controlled. The bodies should be controlled. Otherwise, there is no notions of what is called social coherence or social what is called social yes coincidence. So at the same time, there are sexualized acts within the ragging. Lots of examples empirically are evident from Sri Lanka and the global south through the brands of ragging, what they are doing. For an example, I have been working as a university academic warden in the university. I have lots of experiences what men are doing within the so-called ragging. For an example, when the academic hostel wardens are vacant in the weekends, what's happening? And one day when I was vacant in the hostels, another senior member, by the next Monday, it was reported that young men, broad street young men, who were waiting for men for sexual desires. And what they have done in the hostels, that street young men were brought to the hostels and doing lots of things. At the same time, the youngsters or the pressures were requested to taking part and enjoy these things. So in addition to, through the brands of ragging, the nudity is a famous body corporeality. The nudity is a must. Nudity is a must in order to make a similar common conformity, common understanding, in order to batch fitness nudity. At the same time, masturbations. Number of state universities, empirical evidence are supported to that the collective depressive or what we called harassed forms of masturbation and simulated anal sex. These are very, very interesting when it comes to the how power, masculine, and sexualized raggings are intersectionally trajected. So as a result, this is some homoerotic undertones. Homoerotic undertones. Even today, I see some the Catholic Church, the chief chapters repeatedly make their disinterest to same sexuality. That says that according to the Gananath Obey Secret, that makes some symbolic communications of our cultural fear and phobia or the shame and fear. So in other words, why these things? It is a kind of a homoerotic undertones and repressed desire according to the British critical cultural theories. Cedric discussed this. It's a repressed desire, not open. There's no open space to express their young people's, adolescents, youths, natural expressions, whether they are right or wrong. But as a natural instinct, there's no space to express these kind of things. As a result, what is happening when they are grown and when they are isolated or when they are given ample freedom in the university hostel or somewhere else, it is which has not been given their school times or the pay within the parents. These are released. It is repressed desire according to the Cedric's critical cultural analysis. So the purpose, humiliation and dominance. Humiliations, people are laughed at. At the same time, people establish their dominance. We are the seniors. Like our previous presenter doctor said that Jayatunge or whatever it is. They are making their dominance. Why this dominance? This classy, divisionalized, compartmentalized cultural indication says that People want to establish their dominance within their suppressed and depressed cultural society. At the same time, this gives them to humiliate their other people, their subordinate. So the post-colonial legacies and hierarchies, also interesting area, that why men are ranked by men within this cultural context. So the colonial disciplining continues. According to the Indian post-colonial theorist Chatterjee, colonial disciplining continues still. So the ragging can be understood as a psychological trauma or some form of traits of schizophrenia or whatsoever, according to the Dr. Ruwan Jayatunge as a clinical expert. But in my case, I'm trained by the critical cultural studies. This gives another chance to formulate what is ragging when it comes to the global south, why it doesn't happen in the global north, relatively also. So the colonial disciplining is continuous. And the rite of passage, according to the Pereira. It's very rite of passage. It's a very poetic expression. It's a rite of passage. Whose passage? Those people who have been suppressed by their hegemonic politics, hegemonic sexuality, hegemonic culture, and all their education system that prevail within the well-grown age from early childhood to adolescent to the youth. So stratified by caste, class, language. There are some, for me, as who has been living with the students nearly more than 15 years, from 2005 to before I moved to the UK, till that there are a number of evidences are authenticated. It's not only these things, but it expels, it comes the Sri Lankan other cultural clinical aspects, like how caste, class, language, those things are reflected through the ragging practices. So it's not the problem of law, but the lived experience, as Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak argue as a post-colonial theorist. It's not only the law, but it's lived experience. For example, number of global north theorists or the cultural critics ask whether within the law establishment we can establish a very moralistic or sexual rightful society. On the contrary, no, it's not only the law, but the way how people are being existed and stayed in their culture. And another one is ritualized violence normalized. Ritualized violence, the rite and rituals, is a cultural way of anthropology that understand why people, this is kind of in Sri Lanka, it's very famous for devil dance or the demons dance or other Bali Tovil, Santi Karma. Likewise, this ragging gives it's a cultural therapy. Cultural therapy. In other words, it is a therapeutic communication within them as being making them to a ritualized cultural context. At the same time, it is a ritualized violence, but it is normalized within these people. That's why, as our previous lecturer from Vavuniya, Dr. Mohan said, even I myself heard when I was in O-level or advanced level, Peradhan University, some of the staff members didn't notice that this is bad. They supported to some extent. This is good. Why? We are enjoying ourselves as a culture, violence, aggressions, suppression, depressions, all those things. We are marketing, self-marketing, and therefore the state also marketing these things to some extent. So the number of empirical evidence support this. 59% of students experience ragging, while 39% sexual abuse, according to Vikram Singh's research 2022. Acts public nudity is a must before the seniors and the other work. Till that, the students didn't do from their childhood to adolescent. Therefore, when we explore why this man or woman commit suicide as a result, even though it is, right? Maybe a clinical psychologist or psychiatrist can discuss this in another way, but according to the critical cultural way, This gives a chance to study and explore how the public nudity has been affected and coerced masturbation. It's not their natural thing as how they are enjoyed their sex and beauty, but they are asked as very unethical public panorama, non-consensual contact. Some of my colleagues, when they were in undergraduate years of some faculties in Sri Lanka's very famous and full-fledged universities, those hostels are occupied, formally occupied to the sex and ragging within the young man. The men are ragged sexually by men. So the psychological, in fact, already Dr. Ruwan Jayatunge has very flamboyantly and insightfully rendered here. Therefore, I don't want to do. But here, as a result, how that cases of depressions, anxiety, or post-traumatic disorders kind of things, PTSD, are coming out. So male victims silenced due to cultural taboos. That's why that hegemonic man, they are to be incongruent with what their parent, school, society, religion have to be. Try to be, right? So this is called the resilience. That is not the resilience. That is suppressed cultural manipulation. So the male victims silence due to cultural taboo. Therefore, finally, no answer, no communications, but commit suicide. But there are another analyses from the psychiatry and clinical side, what the reasons before the commit suicide. But this has some relationship when it comes to the critical cultural analysis. So my conclusions for that, the ragging, gendered violence, plus institutional discipline and post-colonial theory. Ragging is an accumulated gross of couple of intersectional trajectories like gendered violence, institutional discipline, and post-colonial hierarchy. This targets male students on the facets of humiliations, dominance, and repressed desire. And this has raised post-hegemonic masculinity and institutional control as lucidly explained by Rowell Cornell and Michel Foucault. So my recommendation is stricter laws. Yes, it's unlike the global north. Even my professors in the UK or States or German ask, Manoj, do you believe that within the law that you can establish LGBT or whatever it is? Yes, I say yes, it's unlike the global north when it comes to global south. Yes, we should have a law. Because morally, for ages, we have not been taught, listened, and civilized. But we have been tamed by the hegemonic forms of power and agency. That tamed doesn't naturally tell who we are. We are artificially constructed here, whatever the cultures, not only the ragging, but also all sort of those white masks, but black moral values, even within from the family to the university or the state. So this rethink about the masculinity, power, and the vulnerability. So thank you very much. These are my couple of references that I use theoretically and give this case for a broad area of audiences. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Manoj. That was a very good presentation, giving us sociological aspects of ragging, which we really wanted to understand. And indeed, you mentioned about the sexual gratification. Yes, there's unresolved sexual gratification can be a contributing factor for ragging, because some research suggests that sexual frustration stemming from unmet sexual needs or desire can manifest as aggression in various settings. So you mentioned about the forced group masturbation, that sort of sexually deviant acts. If you could remember, if you had read Eric Maria Remarque's book, All Quiet on the Western Front, there's a place he mentioned the Russian POWs they were in a sort of deplorable situation in Germany, and the hopelessness, the stress factors, starvation impact them. So, in as a stress outlet, the whole group, all POWs, thousands of these young men, the prisoners, they get together and they engage in mass this group masturbation. I think Professor Gananath's research also help us to understand some of these hidden behaviors, especially in our Sri Lankan culture. So yes, indeed, this Katu Imbula, it's about the religion, the repercussions,
Yeah.
the retribution. These are all in our collective unconscious. So here we are not talking about a small group of university students. Actually, there's a huge psychology, huge sociology, huge psychopolitical factors, huge biology is behind these acts. And we are not sort of accusing only the university students. We know that ragging is prevailing in the army. I myself, I worked for the Sri Lankan army for a number of years, and I was working at military hospital Colombo, and there I treated a number of officers and NCOs who were the victims of ragging behaviors, and we tried to curb ragging at that time, but still these initiations are there, and those are with the subcultures, and it's very, very difficult to curb. And so, as you mentioned, there should be law and enforcement, because a century ago in the US, the lynching was prevailing, and even the, the authorities could kill a black man without any charges or any legal procedure. So, how things change? There was an attitudinal change, and they brought legal frame, and within 75 to 100 years, we see a colored individual becomes the US president, Obama. So see, in 1960s, they couldn't not sit in a public lounge, enjoy coffee, and there were whites only restaurants, the washrooms. But within several decades, that things changed. So here also, I think if we can have some bring some legal aspects here and enforce some discipline and law within also the attitudinal change, awareness, social awareness, the discussions like this. And we have to question our moral judgments. I think as a society, we all are perpetrators. We all are responsible for the past deaths, starting from this poor girl from Mahai Dandava. Then she was subjected to brutal ragging, and out of fear. So that's also a sexualized form of ragging. It's called this pangasema. So they tried to forcibly insert a pen to her vagina, and this girl got frightened, and she jumped from the hostel, and she became a cripple, and eventually things escalated, and she committed suicide. So there are a number of very, very deplorable, pathetic cases, and year by year, these people, the numbers are adding, and eventually they become statistics. We have to change this. We have to change this subculture, and it's not only the universities, because these ragging and these sadistic aggressive treatments, aggressive behavior is prevailing in school systems. And we have to educate the teachers. We have to give certain awareness to the education department, because today the who is the Vinaya Palak in any school, the who is answerable for disciplining the students. They select the most aggressive teacher. He may be having some family problems. He's fighting his own demons, and he uses aggression as a disciplinary component, and we promote aggression. So similarly, we elect the most aggressive political figure. We cast our votes for the aggressive personalities. That's been happening for ages in this country. I think we need to have certain understanding. We have to have a very open debate, and very truthfully, we have to talk about these issues. I think this your effort. Thank you very much, Dr. Manoj, for initiating this, and
Thank you, Manoj.
you are the key person who organized this. And Dr. Wijeyamohan, thank you very much
Thank you
for
very
the
much.
facts that you highlighted. So we can give another 15 to 20 minutes if you have any questions or whatever the things you want to verify. We can answer to your questions. And also, we are recording this session, and it's really good, and a lot of people can listen to that if we can put it on YouTube. So if you have any questions, we would like to answer to your questions. Either you can ask or you can put it on the chat box. You can type it.
Oh, thank you, Professor. I think it's a really very good presentation. I'm really very interested to this. Is it okay?
Oh,
Clear?
sure. Please go ahead. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
yes,
clear.
yes,
This is
please,
Dr. Ravi.
go
This
ahead.
is Dr. Ravi from University of Vavuniya. I think it's a really very important aspect. You have three prominent experts discuss about this ranking issue. So I maybe ask some question particularly. I have some foreign experience. I had a chance to work some foreign university. Then I noticed there, particularly we have to provide some strategy for the senior students. When I was in foreign university, then I observed first 2 weeks, there's no any staff conduct any program for first year students. Everything done by second year and third year students. So there's a proper activities they organize between first year student and second year student. First 1 week and 2 weeks, they have to show all the university, institution and all the faculties and what are the basic instrument, basic facilities available. Everything provided by the senior students. So after 2 weeks only, staff can involve with the junior students. So therefore, within these 2 weeks, also they provide clear instruction for the senior student how they have to take care of the first year students. There's a proper way they provide all the strategies for the senior students. They selected some group of the students. They have to take care of the first year students, and they have to provide whatever basic needs for the senior junior students. Such kind of strategy I observed from the particularly in the University of Queensland and also Griffith University. So I feel that we have any similar kind of strategy, particularly in the within 1 week or 2 weeks between first year students and second year students. If there are any strategies available, I thought maybe we can possible to reduce some kind of issues arises between first year and second year. So that's why my questions. Please, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you very much for the question. Yes, that's a very good strategy because actually, even though this is a negative social force, the senior students, that can be converted into a positive, constructive usable force. When I first went to York University, actually the second year, the third year, the senior students came to us, not the university professors. There were no university professors or university authorities. The senior students took us and they showed the lecture rooms and they treated us with donuts. And I remember one senior student, he really helped me. At that time, I had my computer, I had a system called Ubuntu. So it was not compatible with the university, the computer IT system, and I couldn't get printouts. This senior student really helped me for nearly 6 months. This individual helped me to get the printout. So indeed, we can use senior students at for the guiding purposes and student guidance programs. I think university authorities should seriously think about that, because here what's the law is, they say no, you can't have any interaction with the freshers, and there's a sort of a prohibition, like there's a certain artificial barrier is being created. But if you lift these barriers, and in the meantime you have to make sure that no one is abusing this, no one is misusing this opportunity, and among the senior batches you can select some student leaders to give the guidance and whatever they have. So there you can build trust, there you can build the group cohesion. I think it's more healthy and it would be more fruitful. And there's another participant asking, how can you explain mob violence in university? Actually, mob violence is everywhere in our society. Let's say if there's an accident in a highway, so what happens? A group of the pedestrians, they I mean, they come together, and sometimes they have this herd mentality, mob mentality, and they unleash their aggression. So once the person is under this group dynamics, his individuality gradually is fading away, and he embraces the masses. He embraces the whatever is done by the group. We saw it during Aragalaya, how mob violence occurred, how it escalated, and in every event. Sometimes these people are very humble and peaceful individuals. They are not violent at all, but given the wrong circumstances, given the inbreeding violent circumstances, these people could change. That's what Professor Zimbardo highlights. So he made an emphasis on how, given in negative circumstances, people can change. People sometimes can commit horrific acts like My Lai massacre. And in the meantime, sometimes people would do esteem acts, even in within the group dynamics. Sometimes they do altruistic things to save people. So we have to understand the human psyche, human psychology, how it works. But as Dr. Manoj said, we should have some moral guiding principles. We should have laws and regulations, because when there is no rules and regulations, people are carried away. People can take law into their hands, and there is no social order. So we saw it everywhere, in every society, in every revolution, in every social calamity. And are there any more questions?
Yeah, responding to Dr. Ravi, I think what he mentioned is really vital for a healthy university system, and we should actually aim towards that. But at the moment, we are in our faculty, we are very young, because that little bit of that element of this ragging is still there, because the seniors haven't yet passed out from the entire university. And after a few years, we can definitely make what Dr. Ravi says, where we can engage the seniors with the juniors in a friendly manner, so that they become kind of guidance, some guides to explore the university and tell about the lecturers and what their specialities are, but not as kind of dominance. So since we have a little bit of that the feeling of dominancy, that it has to be incorporated in the university system, because of this the elements that I mentioned about not to speak in English, and not to show your wealth in your dresses and things like that. But that will vanish, I suppose, within few years' time, and then we will definitely get into that. And I think that should be the way forward.
Thank you very much,
Wijeyamohan.
Dr. Wijeyamohan. And so I think we can wind up the session. And first of all, I would like to thank Dr. Manoj Jinadasa to take the leadership and organize this. And thank you, Dr. Wijeyamohan, for your contribution. And you gave us a lot of courage and a lot of material to talk about, and especially your eye-opening article. I think it's being circulated around the world, and one of the professors in Canada, he sent that article, that link. That's how I came to know about you. So thank you very much for your good work, and thank you for the participants. And we would like you to know that we are recording this session, and we'll put it on YouTube, and so other then the lot of people can watch this presentation. So thank you once again, and have a great evening.
Thank you very much. I must thank the paper who published this article, and thank you very much for everyone for listening to me, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Dr. Manoj, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, thank you very much. Also, Dr. Ruwan Jayatunge, for many months since
I was pestering you about this. Thank you.
in the UK. Yeah. We want to make something collaboratively, and we talk about different subjects and different things. But however, finally, this has been the chance. So thank you very much. And also our other speaker, Dr. Wijeyamohan, and all the respective audiences who supported us to success this evening sessions in Sri Lanka.
Thank you very much, and good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.